Hey guys, I was just editing the video for today and I just wanted to add a bit of a disclaimer that as much as this is my experience of a mental health crisis, a physical health crisis, I'm not a mental health practitioner, and so I just wanted to say that if you find yourself in a crisis of any kind, where you are feeling really hopeless, then please do get in contact with a medical professional, whether that be your GP or mental health team, or ringing 111 if you're in the UK. And if you feel you are in an emergency where you think you might hurt yourself or somebody else, then please don't hesitate to ring 999. They will help you. And yeah, this is simply just my advice from my experience. It isn't something to be taken medically seriously, and so please look after yourself, and if you need the help, then there are organisations and charities out there who are willing to do so. Enjoy! Hi everyone, welcome back to the Living Amidst podcast. I feel like it's been a while since I've sat down and recorded an episode. I kind of wanted to touch on that before we get into today's episode, because in the first episode that I did, I spoke about like how frequently I was planning on uploading episodes, and I think in that video I said, like, I think I even said, oh, maybe once a week, 2 times a month, and I think at the time that was fully my intention. I think I didn't realise how much energy it would take to record these, not only record them but edit them, sort out all the publishing things, but also I have to re-watch it all myself, and so it does take a lot of energy for me to record these and to watch it through and edit it. And so I kind of want to reword that and say that they probably will only be published once a month, just whilst my energy is still kind of at my low baseline. It's better for me to only record when I can, and I don't want to do it just to get more content out. I actually want to be able to put energy into it, energy that I have and not energy that I'm putting out of my reserves. My 2 cats are normally asleep when I record, and one of them is being very needy right now, so if she causes any disruptions, I do apologise. It's so great to be here again, and apologies if the lighting is really weird. Again, I normally record this during the daytime, but it's evening now, so I've had to put a lamp on, which is really bright in my eyes, actually. But when I planned to film it, my battery on my camera was dead, so I've been waiting to film it, which was a blessing because I had time to really think and pray over actually what I want to say. By the title of the video, you will see that I wanted to talk about how to cope when things feel really dark. This is something that God put on my heart. He actually put the number 12 on my heart before he gave me the idea. So I knew that I wanted to record something that was like 12 things to remember or 12 things to do. And then when he put this on my heart, I thought, yeah, actually that's something that I really need sometimes, really would have liked to have. I want these 12 things to be really practical for you. There are more than 12, and I could list and list for a long time, but I wanted to be really concise and just bring it down to 12. And they are more practical than sort of mental, so I think I prefer that. Sometimes when you give people like mental advice, it can feel a bit like, okay, but how? And I think a lot of biblical advice can feel like that, where it can say, oh, give all your anxiety to God, give your low moments to God, and it's like, yeah, but how? Like, how do I actually do that in my day-to-day life? So I'm going to pray, and I'm going to just go through them and talk a little bit about each point. I'm not going to spend a long time on these, because if you're watching this as someone that is maybe in the midst of a valley, you don't want to be here for an hour. I get that. And so I don't want to talk for ages. But I'll talk a little bit more about that after we pray. So I'm just going to spend some time in prayer. Yeah, Lord, thank you that I'm here. Thank you for this space to encounter you and to spread your hope and your love to others. Lord, I just pray that you would be blessing me and blessing those on the other side of the screen. Lord, I just pray that you would be with them and speaking to them through me. I pray for those people that are watching this, maybe in a desperate plea for any sort of hope. Lord, I've been there, and I just pray that they would know your face and know your hand in their life. I pray that you would give them even just an ounce of hope. I pray that your will be done. I pray you'd speak through me, Lord, for your glory. In your name I pray. Amen. So, when I say, I'm not sure what I'm going to title the video yet, but I know it's going to be something like 12 things to do / remember when life feels really hard, or something like that. So, when I say that, I mean when you feel as though you've hit rock bottom. That could be mentally, it could be physically. Maybe you physically are feeling really unwell. You might have some sort of condition that's making you feel really low. Maybe you mentally feel like you're at rock bottom, whether that's depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, whatever it might be. Or maybe there's just relational things. Maybe your marriage is falling apart. Maybe your finances are looking really bad. Whatever has brought you to rock bottom, all of these things apply to that. And I personally have had a few experiences where I would say rock bottom is a way of defining it. And if you don't get what I'm saying, I hope you're grateful for that, because when I say rock bottom, I mean when you're in a place where you genuinely just don't know how to take the next step. And this is a really scary place to be. It feels like you're completely out of control. It feels like doing anything is like terrifying. In my experience, it's just been like all-encompassing fear. I didn't know whether I'd make it to the next morning. I didn't know how I would get through the next hour. And it's really scary. It's really sad. And there's a lot of things that I think you can reflect on and think, I wish I did more of that. But at the time, you just genuinely have no capacity to do these big life-changing things. And so these 12 things that I've written down on my phone, they relate more to things you can do in that headspace. And I just think there is a stigma around, I want a better word than rock bottom. Let's just say it's the valley. A valley that you're in where you don't know the next step. You're feeling like there's no hope. You can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think there is such a stigma around this where people think you should just go out for a walk. You should go for a run. You should drink more water. You should pray. You should just get up and go. And I think when you haven't experienced mental or physical health to a level where it is making you feel hopeless, I think that's where you get this idea that you could just walk it out, or you could take a hot bath and you'll feel 10 times better. And I'm not saying those things don't help. Fresh air and a hot bath do help. However, when you're in this valley, those things aren't going to touch it. They're not going to make you feel 10 times better. And these 12 things that I'm going to say, they're not going to make you feel 100% better, but they might make you feel 1% better. And when you're in that place, 1% is a huge deal. And I don't want to assume what your valley looks like. It's going to look different to mine. It's going to look different to what I have experienced. And these are things that work for me. They might not work for you. You might need to adapt them. But whatever this looks like for you, I just pray that you would be gentle with yourself. I think that is such a key thing that I've experienced in my times in the valley, is you just have to be gentle with yourself, because it's so unprecedented. You don't get a manual on how to get through these things. And it can be really scary. Like, there have been times where I've sat and thought, I'm going insane. I need to go and admit myself into some sort of mental health facility because I don't know how to control my body right now. And that is a really, really scary feeling. And I really empathise if you've ever felt that. It does get better. It doesn't always get better straight away. And sometimes the mental health advice that we can get from others or from church can really worsen our situation or how we feel. Or it can feel like trying to put a plaster on a gaping wound. And that's not saying that those things don't have value, because they do, but in that moment there's just not much touches it. And so even if you are watching this and you've never experienced that, you've never had like mental health or physical health to the point where you feel hopeless, this is still really good stuff to know to help others. Because in my lowest moments, when people have thought they've been doing good and they've told me, oh, just pray it away, you just need to pray more, you just need to have more faith. Have you read the Bible today? Did you see where Elijah felt hopeless and he got up and he had a great life and he trusted God more? Those are really good-hearted things that people are saying to me, but in that moment they just feel like a smack around the face, because in that moment you are beating yourself up for not having enough faith. You're beating yourself up for not praying more, not reading your Bible more. And I just don't think Jesus would say that to me. I don't think he would tell me to have more faith. I think he would give me a hug and tell me it's going to be okay. If you maybe support people who go through these valleys, then this video is for you as well, because some of these things will be really helpful for you to help them with or suggest for them to do. So I'm going to dive in. So number one, I've got, do what you need to do. So I'm going to explain this. I think there can be a lot of pressure to do everything and to complete a job, for example. So for me, some things that have been a really big deal when I've been in these valleys are household chores, hygiene things. So for example, maybe I have a huge pile of washing, but I'm in this really low moment where I just have no energy, I have no motivation, and that pile of washing is making me feel really guilty and me feel really like I'm lazy, like I can't do anything. And when I say do what you need to do, I'm basically saying if you need to fold 3 t-shirts and call it a day, then do that. If you need to brush your teeth for 1 minute, not 2, then do that. If you need to sit in the bath but not actually wash yourself, then do that. The world will keep spinning, whether you do the whole hog or you don't. Whether you fold all of your washing, whether you fold 3 t-shirts, whether you brush your hair completely or just brush one half, the world will keep spinning, I promise you. And in that moment, it doesn't feel like it will. It feels like, oh, I need to get all of this done. I need to complete every chore. I need to be everywhere. I need to be everything to everyone. And that's just not the case. You need to look after yourself. And if looking after yourself looks like doing things to half your capacity, then do that. Things don't need to be 100% complete. So for me, in times of darkness, that has looked like half doing chores, emptying the dishwasher but only emptying 2 things and leaving the rest, or folding the laundry, only folding a few, only putting half of it away. Whatever I had the energy or the capacity for, then that is what I would do. And that's not saying it's easy, because I would guilt trip myself massively for it, and I would feel ashamed at the fact that I couldn't do more. But reflecting on it, I think I realised how much it really doesn't matter that I couldn't do it all. There will come a day when you can do it all again, and that washing will still be there for you to fold, I promise you. And so if you can't do it today, that's okay. It will be there when you can. And you need to remember that when you are in those deep, dark moments, that actually the world is still spinning and you don't have to make it spin. It just does it. And things will happen, whether you're living in a really messy space right now, or you just have loads of chores piling up. It doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're looking after yourself, and that is what is important. For me, the dark moments quite often look like just lying and shutting out all the noise of the world. And there are a million chores that are calling my name, a million people that want to talk to me. That sounds like I have loads of friends. I don't. A million different responsibilities shouting my name. But in that moment, it feels really selfish to choose yourself and say, right now, I just need to lie here. But if that is what you need to do, then that is what you need to do. And that is what you should do. Because in that moment, all that matters is that you feel levelled. And if you keep trying to push to be everything, you're just going to make yourself worse, and you're never going to get out of that valley, because you're never taking the time to actually look after yourself and your own well-being. And I think that applies to a lot of things with physical rest as well. I think I'll do a whole episode on sort of the physical side of this, where it can be quite different to the mental. It's not always different, but it can be. But yeah, I think with that point, it's just important to remember that things will be there tomorrow for you to do. You might feel better tomorrow. Just because you can't do it today doesn't mean it won't ever get done. It's so easy to feel like I need to get all of this done today. And that's just not the case, because it will get done eventually when you feel better. But you don't have to push to do it now when you're not feeling good. Point 2 is kind of similar, but it is to set boundaries. Boundaries are something that I've really been learning a lot about in this past year. It's something that me and my therapist speak about a lot. Boundaries were really difficult for me at university, because we lived in dorms and you were all very close-knit groups and you'd all live very closely to each other. And so when I got married and moved away, boundaries kind of were not something I really knew about. I didn't realise that. So for example, I thought you always had to answer the door. And there's actually no reason that I thought that, because I feel like I didn't learn that growing up. But I just thought I always need to answer the door, and if I can't, I should feel guilty for that. And so as someone that was navigating falling into a really bad chronic illness, to have the doorbell ring when I was in my pyjamas, I'd feel this rush of guilt, like I should be at that door. I'm an adult now, I'm married, I should be able to answer the door. And it was something that I worked through with my therapist, where we spoke about, actually, you don't have to answer the door. You have no obligation to answer the door. And I think some of that did stem from university, where people would knock on your door quite a lot and you kind of had an obligation to answer. You didn't. I felt as though I had an obligation to answer. But yeah, I think that kind of built a weird responsibility in my brain where I felt you had to. But it's things like that. Set those boundaries in general life, with answering the door, with answering phone calls. If you can't do that, you don't have to. The world will keep spinning if you don't. But I think with people you know as well, family and friends, it is important to set those boundaries. And it can feel really harsh. It can feel as though you're hurting them. And you do need to be really firm, because I think some people just don't take boundaries. But that doesn't mean you're a bad person. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you're looking after yourself. And if those people love you and care for you, then they will happily accept your boundaries because they will know that you're looking after yourself by doing so. There are times where I've had to put boundaries in with people and have had to say, you can come over but for X amount of time, or you can't come over at all. There's been times where people have wanted to see me or see my husband, and I've had to say, no, I can't do that right now. I have to look after my own mental well-being, and part of that is having no visitors at the moment. And that sounds really harsh, and it took me a long time to unlearn. I still haven't unlearned, to be fair, that isn't a bad thing. I think with all of these points, there's a level where you can't keep doing this forever. So I can't have these boundaries forever because it's unhealthy where I continue to say to people, you can't come over. And so it's for the valley that I'm saying you need to input these boundaries. And then once you're feeling better, you can start bringing the boundaries down. I will only put these boundaries in when I really need them. And it's the same with you. You shouldn't feel guilty for putting them in, but you also shouldn't become accustomed to keeping them there. Because actually, having people over is really important and really good for your mental well-being. But with that being said, if you need to be left alone, then you tell them that. You don't have to give them an excuse. You don't have to give them a reason. You don't have to pour out about how difficult it's been. You can simply say, no, I'm not feeling up to it. Or maybe people want to help in a loving way. They want to bring you a meal. They want to come and sit with you. If that's not something you're up for, say that. Set a boundary there. You don't have to accept their help. And I know this sounds really sort of countercultural. It's just things that have worked for me in the moment where it can feel so overwhelming to be trying to get yourself out of this valley or to try and take the next step. And when people are trying to push those boundaries down, it can be really hard to be firm with them. But learning that there's nothing wrong with setting a boundary is so important, and it was so integral for me. And I think people heal differently. Some people really will heal from these valleys with other people, and so going into community settings or having people over or going to people's houses is really important. But for other people it's not, and I think that's something with me where a lot of people heal by going to spend time with people, and that's just not me. I heal on my own. I heal in my own space, and where that might hurt people because they think I'm isolating myself or I'm trying to push them away, in reality that's just me keeping a boundary that's keeping my mental well-being or my physical well-being safe. I think especially with the physical side, this is really important, where if I know seeing somebody's going to push me over the edge again, then I have to say no. And this is something that, again, I could do a whole episode on, because learning to set boundaries with a chronic illness has been one of the hardest things I've had to learn. Because people do get hurt and people will tell you that they feel hurt. And that is so hard because you just want to be like, no, come on over then, I'm so sorry. But actually that's not helping you. And there are times to sacrifice and to make yourself uncomfortable in those situations. But there are also times where you have to put a boundary in and say, I'm just not up for visitors. I've just spent the last week in bed. I've only just been able to get out. I really appreciate you wanting to come see me, but for now I just can't. But in a week I might be able to. And so being clear with that it's not about them, but also being clear that you don't have to give a reason. You can just say no. No is a full sentence. I'm so sorry, but I'm not feeling up to it today. That's okay. You're allowed to say that. There's nothing wrong or sinful with saying that. I think boundaries can be quite contested in church, where we're supposed to be hospitable and loving and give people the coat off our back. And there is a level of that where you should, but when it comes down to your mental and physical well-being, it's really important that you keep those boundaries. I would so much rather someone tell me, I don't want you to come over today because I'm feeling really overwhelmed, than me go over, them being overwhelmed feel even more overwhelmed to the point where they might have a mental crisis. And I think if people love and care for you, they will say the same. So please don't feel bad for setting those boundaries where you need to. Number 3 is kind of similar to the first 2. All 3 of these kind of have the same theme, where it is adjust things to fit you. And so I thought of one example that I do this a lot, and that is in worship at church. When we do sung worship, I will sit down 90% of the time. I don't often stand up for worship, but also in my church, it's an Anglican church, and we do liturgical things like standing up for the gospel reading or standing up when the vicar comes in. And you won't often catch me standing up during those times. And I quite often find, especially if people don't know me or they're new to the church, I quite often get looks thinking, oh, she's quite young, why is she still sat down? Because I think there's this idea that the whole stand only if you're able only applies to the elderly. But for me, standing up in worship is so tiring. If you have any chronic illness where you experience PEM, post-exertional malaise, you will understand that standing for worship just is exhausting. Standing in general is so tiring. But for me, to get the most out of that worship and to feel closer to God, to feel connected with Him, I sit down and I worship sat down. And I often will not even sing. I'll just read the lyrics or I'll listen to people sing. And that's what works for me. In that moment, that is what makes me feel most connected to God. Now, I could easily stand up and wear myself out to please people. But I have to make the adjustments to make that right for me. And I will get the looks where people think I'm rude for not standing up or I'm ungodly for not standing up. That is okay. Let them judge. Let them think what they're going to think. Because they don't have to live in my body. They don't have to live with the consequences of standing up. And I think there's so many things that can apply to. If you wake up first thing in the morning and you're so tired, you get to the toilet, you go to the toilet and you think, I need to brush my teeth, but I'm so tired. Go back to bed and brush them at midday, at 3 p.m. Brush them at 7 p.m. Whatever works for you. These things that are important, it is important that they're done, but you can adjust them to make them work for you. So brushing your teeth, that is important to do. However, if it's the choice between laying in bed guilt-tripping yourself about the fact that you didn't, or wearing yourself out even more because you did, I would pick to go and brush them at 3 p.m. If that is what you need to do, then do that. That's okay. You shouldn't feel guilty for doing things your way. There are so many things that I've had to adjust in my life to make life work for me, to make sure that I survive the days and I'm not crashing at the end of every day. And these things sometimes hurt others and they sometimes affect other people. For example, my husband has a very different life now to what he did before I got unwell. And he has to make a lot of compromises to fit into my lifestyle. And that isn't saying that he doesn't have his own life, because he does. Right now he's off with his friends playing football. But that doesn't mean that I then have to adjust to him, if that makes sense at all. It can feel very selfish, and I think in church we have this real weight on being selfless and giving ourselves up. And whilst that is important and there's a balance, it is also really important not to sacrifice yourself and your own well-being to fit into other people's ideals. There are so many things, as I said, that I do, and I would love to do a whole video on that, I think, where sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. And if that is not what the world likes, then that's okay. You don't have to. I went to a fireworks display last year and I took my wheelchair because, I wanted to be able to sit down. during the display. There were people that were really unhappy with that. There were members of the public that would huff at the fact that I had a wheelchair, because for a lot of the time I wasn't actually in it. I just would be pushing it, or my husband would be pushing it. There were people that would barge me out the way. There were a group of women that barged it so hard that it actually flipped. Fortunately, I wasn't in it. But there were a lot of just people that were really unhappy. There was one man who said, what is the point of having a wheelchair if I didn't use it if I was walking? And I was really demoralised by that night, because I just felt like I was doing something wrong. But this is where it comes. This is where it's important that I made those adjustments for myself. I said, hey, tonight I'm feeling pretty exhausted. I don't think I'm going to be able to stand through an entire fireworks display, but I don't want to miss out, and I shouldn't have to miss out. And so I'm going to take my wheelchair and I'm going to sit in that when I need to. And I think that's the really important thing, is you shouldn't have to miss out on things because you're low, because your mental well-being is bad, because your physical well-being is bad. You deserve to be included in everything. And I think when you're in those mental low moments, sometimes making those adjustments can really be impactful, and they can really help you get out of that valley. So maybe going for coffee with a friend is just too much. You can't do that right now. You're too anxious, you're too low. But maybe having them at your house for coffee is something that's doable. And saying to them, hey, do you mind coming over for coffee? Making that adjustment can really make the impact, and it can get you socialising again, seeing people again. It could get you out and about. Maybe you want to get to church, but you're really struggling with sitting in a service for whatever reason. Maybe you say, I'll go for 10 minutes and then I'll go home. That feels really wrong, and it feels like you're sinning, like you're doing wrong against the church, but that's just not true. You are doing what you need to do, and that's okay. And you got yourself to church, and so you should be proud of that. You shouldn't guilt yourself by what society expects. But I think I'm going to do a whole video on that, because I feel like there is so much I could say on the topic of putting yourself first. And I do think this is something the church really sometimes navigates poorly, where we feel we should always be self-sacrificial. But I then think you find a lot of Christians and Christian leaders who end up midway through their life completely burnt out and completely bedbound or too unwell to do anything, because they've put other people first for so much of their lives that they've never actually listened to their own body. They've never looked after themselves. The Bible says we need to treat our body like a temple, and in that's our mind as well. Our mind and our body, treat them like a temple. We need to love the body we're given and treat it well, and make those adjustments that will make living easier. But again, kind of disclaimer there, you do that until you need to stop. And so it is easy to say, what's a good example? Like, I'm too anxious to go to a church service. And so you end up going for 10 minutes one Sunday, and then you manage that, you go home. You should be proud of yourself, you did it. But then when you start to move out of that low valley, out of that mental crisis, you don't remain with those adjustments, because you will end up shrinking your life. And I'm saying this for me as much as you. There can be so many things that you keep in place because it's easy. But actually, I think making sure you then broaden those adjustments once you are out of the valley is just as important as putting them in. You don't want these adjustments to shrink your life. Same with the boundaries. You don't want them to shrink your life. And so if you find yourself waking up, you're like, I've come out of that valley now, I'm feeling much better. Go and brush your teeth. Don't keep saying, oh, but I've got used to doing it at 3 p.m, because you then build habits that you don't want to build, and that valley then changes you in the wrong way. It almost reverses things that you had in place. And we want these valleys to be growing us and changing us in good ways. We don't want to be building habits that are reflective of a bad mental state, because that will then continue to play in to our daily lives. I think, again, that's another video, but putting the emphasis on getting better all the time, trying not to remain in these cycles of bad habits and adjustments. Whilst they are so important when you're at rock bottom, it's also important not to remain in them. That is a long-winded way of saying these should only be for a short period of time. Number 4. I said this is going to be a short video, and I'm realising I'm only on 4. Do small things to help yourself. So this could be getting a cold drink, maybe putting ice in your drink. You don't normally have ice. Maybe you want to sit outside, but that's too much for you. So maybe you sit just with the window open. Maybe you're feeling really rough, and so you order something online that will make you feel a bit better. I think doing those small acts of self-love are so important in those times. And sometimes these huge things can feel so overwhelming. So going for a 5k run, yeah, that might be good for you, but that might feel so overwhelming in the moment. And so go for a 1k walk. Take a step outside. Go sit outside. You don't have to walk. You could just go sit outside. You could drive somewhere and sit. You could do a whole self-care evening, or you could put a face mask on, or you could have a bath. You don't have to do the whole task that then feels overwhelming, because I think the more overwhelming it feels, the less likely you're going to do it. For example, you could schedule in an everything shower where you wash your hair, shave, you scrub your body, you do your nails, you pluck your eyebrows. That might feel so overwhelming that you're like, I can't be bothered. I'm just not even going to have a bath. And where you think it's all or nothing, and that everything shower will make me feel so good, it might, but you're not at that place yet, and that's okay. One day you'll be able to do all that. But for now, if all you can do is run a bath and sit in it, then you do that. It's okay to take these levels of all down not to nothing, but to something. And I think these small acts of self-love can be so important. So for me, often these things look like putting my phone down and going to stroke my cat, making a fun drink. Maybe it will be making a coffee and spending longer actually picking the mug and pouring and cleaning. Maybe it is cleaning one thing. So for me, cleaning is really therapeutic, but I understand it might not be for some people. But maybe it's taking time over cleaning one thing. Rather than rushing around the entire house, cleaning and sweating and feeling really tired and overwhelmed, maybe it's saying, hey, I'm just going to clean this one corner of my house today. And I'm going to clean it well, and I'm going to enjoy it. And I think it's those small things that really make an impact. Again, with ordering, maybe it's ordering a nice drink to your house, or a meal, or a snack. Don't feel guilty for doing nice things for yourself, because in those low moments when your dopamine and your serotonin levels are super low, you can do things to bring them up, and you shouldn't feel guilty for doing them, even if it's the smallest dopamine hit. I had a Vinted parcel yesterday, or the day before, and it was wrapped in the cutest koala print, and it was simply just a package, but it really gave me a dopamine hit. It made me feel happier. And it is those small things that we overlook because we don't feel like they'll make much of a difference, but they do. So maybe you don't have the energy to have a bath, but you can brush your hair. That will make you feel better, I promise. It will only make you feel a tiny bit better, but as I said before, that 1% really does make a difference in those valleys. Point number 5, don't be afraid to ask for help. Now this kind of ties into point 2 about boundaries, but people genuinely want to help. I know it's so easy to convince yourself nobody cares, to convince yourself that nobody wants to help, that they're fed up of you, you've had this condition for too long, you've asked for too much help. But I can promise you, people want to help. And if you are finding that you're asking for help and people are saying no, then they maybe aren't the right people for you anyway. I know 100% that if somebody asked me to do something and I knew it was between that or them having a mental crisis or a physical crisis, then I would do it. 100%. And you don't have to be asking people for a 5-course meal or £100. You can just ask them to sit on the phone with you, to FaceTime you, and you don't have to talk, to play a game with you, to let you rant at them. So many of my friends have been so good where I've said to them, can I please just rant about things to you without judgment, without advice? And they've been like, yeah, go ahead. And I've sent a long rant saying, oh, I just can't deal with this or that. And they've been like, okay, I hear you. Like, they haven't been like, oh, well, have you tried this? Or have you read this Bible passage? And I think sometimes that's what you need. And that ties in to one of the points a bit later on. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to accept help. My mum and my dad have been so good in my lowest moments, where when I've been married, they've offered to cook meals and they've brought them over, and that has been so helpful for me because I didn't have the energy to cook, but my husband worked evenings, and so it was often the choice between me not eating or waiting until he got back at like 9 p.m. And so my mum would cook these meals that I could put in the microwave, or I could just eat them as they were. And it's little things like that that maybe you're already cooking a meal for your family and you could cook one extra portion and drop it around to your friend that's really struggling. Or maybe you are ordering something on Amazon and you could order an extra one for them to make their day better. But also don't be afraid to ask for the help. If you need to ask somebody for a meal or to even go pick you up groceries, then I'm sure they will be happy to do so. I think there is a stigma about asking for help, but there are so many people and charities and organisations who want to help you. I've had mental health struggles for many, many years now, but it was only this year where I've actually reached out to a mental health team. And I think I was so reluctant for my entire journey because I thought I was being an inconvenience. I thought I wasn't bad enough for their help. I thought they wouldn't help. They would be annoyed at me. They would be angry. And everybody has different experiences with these mental health teams. But I had such a good experience where they were so helpful and they were so affirming. And the lady I spoke to was so lovely. And it was in that moment where I was like, I shouldn't be ashamed of asking for help because I need the help and it's not bad to ask for help. You shouldn't be ashamed. You shouldn't feel guilty. You shouldn't feel like you're asking too much because people want to help. Just like when you're feeling good and well, you want to help. So I'm getting distracted by the fact that my shadow, you can see my ear and my shadow, I look like Legolas. When you're feeling good and when you're feeling well, you want to help people and you want to provide people with the things that maybe you've struggled with. And I think that's a huge thing for my story as well, where I want to help people with these issues that I've experienced, because that's how God creates us. He creates us to serve as well as be served. And if you need to accept the help, then accept it. There's nothing wrong with asking for help and accepting the help, I promise. And there will be people that want to help you. And then actually, that kind of links in with point 6. Speak about your feelings. I have been a real cynic about speaking about my feelings for a long time, where I didn't think it would help. I bottled it up because I thought it was pointless, because often when you say them out loud, people are like, I don't know what even to say to you. And that's okay. I think sometimes just saying them really helps. And there have been times where I've even recorded myself saying them for nobody, but just to say them out loud. Or even to watch them back for myself, to then navigate some of my feelings or to reflect on what I'm really struggling with in that moment. Maybe it's journaling for you. So I've journaled for a lot of my life and I find it really helpful to do what I call splurge prayers, where, say, my brain is feeling really busy and I'm just feeling really mentally overwhelmed, I will just sit down and write all my feelings, whether they're tiny, whether they're huge, whether I'm annoyed about the fact that my cat went in their litter tray just after I cleaned it, which is a weekly occurrence, or I'm annoyed that I've run out of money, or I'm annoyed that I've had an argument with someone. All of these things really matter, and it matters that we speak about them and process them. And by writing them out on a page, that is a really good way to process them. Sometimes it's hard to find the words, and I get that, but I promise you, if you start writing, they will come. There have been so many times where I've thought, I just don't know what to say, but then you start speaking. You may think that I'm speaking really fast, and I am, but that's because the words are just there. And it's the same with journaling or praying or speaking to somebody. You may think the words won't be there, but they will. And even if you don't know how to describe it in the moment, maybe you just need to start speaking. And the people you're speaking to, if you choose to speak to people, they don't have to understand it. Often I will rant to my husband and he'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. Or, oh, that sounds rough. Like, he doesn't get it or he doesn't understand it. That's okay. I will genuinely have a weight lifted off me just from speaking it aloud, just from sharing it. But I think also mental health has such a way of tricking you into thinking that yours is uncurable, yours is so much worse than everybody else's, yours is different to everybody else's. And I think I found that a lot, where I've thought, nobody will understand what I'm saying, nobody will understand my story, nobody will understand what I've been through. But the more you speak about it and the more you tell people, the more you'll realise actually people have been through what I've been through, and they are proof that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But also there's people out there that are struggling more than you, and if you share your story, they will feel such a sense of relief where they think, oh, somebody else feels this way, somebody else has struggled with this. And there is such impact to speaking your feelings for you, but also for others. And again, different ways of doing that. Journaling, you could speak it into your phone for it to type it out. You could just record yourself doing it. You could type it out on a computer if writing is too much. You could paint out your feelings, draw out your feelings. You could go for a walk and just speak the entire time. It could be in a prayer form, but it doesn't have to be in a prayer form. I think God will listen. Well, he will listen, whether it is or not. You don't have to do it aimed at him, but he's listening either way. Number 7, just because it doesn't feel good now doesn't mean it never will. And I think this is less of a practical one, but I think hope can feel so far away in these moments, whether physical or mental. You feel like you're never going to escape from this moment. I know that feeling so well, because every time I've been in these valleys, I thought, this is it. This is my life now. I'm never ever going to feel good again. I'm never going to feel like I can catch a break. I'm never going to feel like I can take a full breath of air again. And every time I have. There's been a really hard period, but then I've always come out of it. Our bodies have this innate sense of being able to return to peace, to homeostasis. They will always work to return to balance. You may feel up here right now, and you may feel that way for a while, but your body will come back down to balance. If you've ever had a panic attack, then you know that in that moment they are so debilitating, but they always come down. You always come back to calm. You will always come back to that innate sense of homeostasis. And I think that is so important to remember in those really high anxiety or really low mood moments or high physical pain, is you will always come back down. I think physically that can be a tension where you might never feel fully well again, but there will be times where it will get easier, where they'll feel like there is more balance. I haven't ever felt like I've gone back to healthy since I was diagnosed with my chronic condition, but there have been easier days. And in those really hard moments where I've been stuck and I've been really high pain, I've thought, this is the end. This is how I am for the next 90 years. But it never is like that. You will come down. I love that I said 90 years as though I'm going to live to, 114. That would be impressive. So yeah, I just hope you all remember that in those moments, that I know I'm speaking to you right now, that I know it feels like it will never end. I genuinely know that feeling so well, but I promise you it will. And I promise you that there will be a moment where you'll be able to take a full breath of air and you will be able to say, I made it. And I got through that really hard time. You will always come back to balance. It doesn't feel like it in the moment, I know that. Number 8, cold water. That's literally all I've written, cold water. Quite a simple one. Cold water always helps me. There's a few ways I use it, whether it's drinking it, so making really cold, ice cold water and sipping it can really bring me back to myself. Maybe in panic moments, to be able to sip a cold water. Quite often if I've been experiencing nausea, it will really help calm my body down and bring me back to the present. Putting my hands in cold water has also been really helpful. So running a sink of just cold water and putting your hands in before you do something scary, or just to bring yourself back to the present. Another thing that I did for a while, which I actually haven't done for a while, but I did find really helpful, was dunking my face in ice water. So every morning I would get a big baking bowl of water and put a load of ice in it and just dunk my face in there for as long as I could stand. And it was like this refresh of feeling really uncomfortable, because it didn't feel pleasant, but it felt really refreshing. And especially in the morning, where you can wake up with the weight of yesterday on you and you can wake up feeling so tired and blah, but actually dunking your face can just be like, okay, I start the day feeling fresh, feeling a bit more alert. And again, if you're in that moment of panic or high anxiety or whatever it is, sometimes just doing things with cold water can really bring you back to your body. Maybe it's taking a cold shower. I've never been able to master taking a cold shower. It's just not something I find pleasant. But I do know there's a lot of benefits to it. Not only physically, but actually doing something like having a cold shower is really uncomfortable. And sometimes teaching your body to do uncomfortable things is really important. Teaching your body that you can do something uncomfortable and survive it is really impactful to any sort of mental resilience journey. I say that as though I've done it. I haven't. Maybe one day it's something I'll try, but I have not been able to master taking a cold shower, and that's okay. But cold water can be really helpful in whatever way works for you. Maybe it'll be cold water on a flannel, just putting that on your neck, putting that on your chest, anywhere where it might help you come back to who you are and where you are. Other grounding things are putting your feet flat on a hard surface, or sometimes I find just laying flat on a hard surface really helpful. Touching things, trying to figure out what you can feel. I'm sure I don't have to tell you about the 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, because I know that's quite a common CBT technique. But things like that do help more than you think they do. Number 9, chill TV shows. I went through a phase, and I'm sure my mum will remember this, when I was really bad, where I would watch a show called 4 in a Bed. I'd watch every single day, multiple episodes of it. And this sounds really dodgy, but it's not. It's 4 people who own B&Bs, and they all go and stay in each other's B&Bs, and they rate it. There is something really comforting about shows like that, because they are chill. Nobody's going to start killing each other in those shows. You're not going to see these insane dramatic scenes. It's just chill. They're real life people just doing the most boring things, and there can be this temptation to watch something that's really going to engage your brain, like an action film or a reality show that's full of drama and lust. But actually, I think in those moments, just rubbish TV really does help. There are a few that I have sort of in the back of my brain that I'll go to if I'm feeling really low or anxious. And it sounds weird, but I have this thing where knowing real life is out there really helps in those moments. Knowing that there are people doing things. So, for example, my husband and I are watching through Taskmaster at the moment. Something about that show is really comforting to me because it's remembering there's real people out there and there's real things that happen, and it's just chill. You know, there's not going to be any shock, insane drama that's going to really stir your heart. It sounds stupid, but it genuinely does work. It's like, for me, during the school holidays, I love hearing kids playing on the road. Most people find it so annoying. They're like, I can't believe they're playing, they're so loud and annoying. I love it because it reminds me that there's a world outside of my head. And in those moments where you feel so in a bubble of anxiety, in a bubble of depression, in a bubble of torment, everything feels like it's just going on inside here. It's so important to remember there is stuff outside of you. And especially with the physical condition, like, I can often feel like I'm in a prison of four walls and that life outside of me doesn't exist. And so watching these shows where I'm just reminded of normal life really does comfort me. And I think that's what it's about. It's just normal life. Like, if you think about any crap daytime TV show, I will happily watch that in a low mood or a high anxiety state or high pain, because it just reminds me that normal life is out there and normal people exist and the world is still spinning, even though I feel like my world is falling apart. And I think that might not work for you. That's okay. But I don't recommend watching shows that are unpredictable, because I've been burnt by it before, where you are watching something and an unexpected twist happens, and that can really stir your emotions, your anxiety. It can make you feel rubbish. It can make you just feel really unsettled. And you don't want that when you're already feeling a bit rubbish. Number 10. Nearly there, guys. Do something creative to help yourself feel more accomplished. So this might be painting. It doesn't have to be painting on a canvas. It could be painting a wall. It could be photography, crocheting, knitting. What's the one with the needle point, whatever it's called. Could be felt work. Whatever you do creatively, make sure you prioritize doing this. And my husband is one of those people that says, I'm just not creative. I don't have a creative bone in my body. I think that's not true. And I will confidently say that everybody is creative. We're just creative in a different way. My husband can't paint a landscape, but he can play the piano really, really well. And he can play the most amazing songs. And that's creative. And I don't know why he doesn't think that's creative. But it's the same with a lot of other people. You can't do arts and crafts, and so you assume you're not creative. But there are so many ways of being creative. Even if it's cleaning. Sometimes cleaning can be creative. It could be singing, making music. It could be going outside and writing a poem. It could be making a film. It could be, as I said, photography, just taking pictures of your pets or something. Anything that makes you feel a little bit more accomplished is a really good thing. And I think that's where things like cleaning can be really good, because you could literally wash a mug up, but it feels like an accomplishment and it feels like you've done something really impactful, which can then be really good for your mental well-being. Number 11, prioritize your needs. So eating, drinking, sleeping, even if it's really hard. And in my low moments, those things have been really hard for me. Eating has been really difficult for me. Sleeping has been really difficult for me. Drinking has been really difficult for me. But it is so important that you prioritize them and you make them work for you. So, for example, in my lowest points, it hasn't always been about eating healthy. I've just been like, if I'm eating, that's important. If I'm drinking a cup of tea rather than a bottle of water, that's okay. I'm drinking, and that's what is important. If I'm sleeping at 3 p.m, I'm sleeping. That's okay. As long as I'm doing it, as long as I'm prioritizing my needs and what is important for my body, then that is what's important, rather than trying to get it perfect and trying to do an all or nothing attitude where I need to eat, but I'm only going to eat a salad, or I need to sleep, but I need to wait till 10 p.m, even though I'm really tired right now. Or I need to drink water, but I don't want water right now. I want a cup of tea, and so I'm just not going to drink anything. Do what works for you. If that is not what society appreciates, fine, so be it. In a week, you might be able to drink water again. But for now, if what you need to sustain your body is to eat junk and drink junk and sleep at weird times, then do it. Again, don't carry that on forever. Drink healthily and eat healthily one day. But for now, if sustaining your body looks a bit different, that's okay. It's not a bad thing. You're not broken. It's normal. I'm going to do the last one because my camera is flashing red at me, and I realised that I wanted this to be a short video, and it's been over an hour. Number 12 is take a deep breath and know that He is there even if it doesn't feel like it. I know what it feels like to scream out to God and say, "Where are you?" I still don't know where God was in my low valleys. I don't know if I ever will until I get to heaven. But I can tell you that He is there next to you, even if you feel like He's not. I promise you, He is there. And that's not always a comfort. Sometimes you can be like, great, well, He's here, but then why am I still struggling? And I get that. I do. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to give you a really good answer to that, apart from just have faith that He is there and He is helping you, and there is so much work going on in heaven that you can't see. Sometimes it's just comfort to know that He's there. And so I'm gonna finish up before my camera dies, but I want you to take a deep breath with me. You ready? And remember that God loves you. He cares for you. You are not broken, and you are not wrong. You're not sinful. You're not naughty. Everybody's sinful, but you're not sinning by looking after yourself. The Bible verse that I picked for today, I was reading through and I found it in John. So quite a popular one. It is John 11:35. Then Jesus wept. 3 words. In most translations, it's 2 words. Jesus wept. Jesus wept. Literally the saviour of the world, the creator of the world. Christ cried. He cried because He felt emotions. He did what He needed to do. Jesus cried. You can cry. You can weep. You can sob. It's okay, and it's healthy, and it's normal. You can do what you need to do to get through. And I know from experience it feels like a dead end, and it feels like you're never going to see the light of day again. And there are still days now where I think, this is it for life. I'm never going to feel better. And maybe you'll never feel the same way that you did. But you will feel better, and you will feel at peace again. And I just really encourage you, if you are going through a season like this, I'd love for you to contact me, and I'd love to talk to you about it, because it's something that I really would love to encourage you in. I think when I have been through it, it's something that I've really thought, one day I want to use this to help others. And so I really just want to be there for you guys. If this is something you're going through, don't go through it alone. There are people that want to hear. There are people that want to help you and want to pray for you. I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to finish up. But thank you so much, guys, for listening all the way through. You guys are troopers for getting all the way through, and I really appreciate it. Yeah, Lord, thank you. Thank you for today, for giving me the energy and sustaining me through this video. Thank you for everyone who sat and listened to it, despite it being very long. Thank you that you love us and that you care for us and you sustain us in all that we do. And thank you that in those valleys where we feel so isolated and alone, that we're not, that you're there with us and you are comforting us and that you are doing things in the background that we will never know about, Lord. Thank you that you are our Saviour and that you showed us that emotions are not dangerous, they're not bad, that they are healthy and they're part of human life. And I just pray that we would know what to do, that we would be able to help ourselves and help others in these journeys. I pray for those who are in the valley now. I pray that you would really help them and really just bring them out of that now, Lord, to see the light once again. Lord, I just pray this in your name. Amen. Amen. My husband told me off last time because I kept saying, what did I keep saying? I kept saying like, oh, it's nearly done, guys, nearly done. And I realised I've just done that for this video as well. And so thank you for staying for the whole time, but you're welcome for talking this long. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. But I'm glad you guys are here and the world is a better place with you in it. And people love you so much and care for you. I love you and care for you. I don't even know you, but I love you and care for you. And God loves you more than you could ever fathom. Immeasurably, he loves you. Genuinely, you imagine the top tier of love, his is way beyond that. Like, it's unconditional. You can't do anything that would make him not love you. Oh, I could cry thinking about that. Keep your chin up and be gentle with yourself. It's really important to be gentle with yourself because you haven't done this before and life can be so messy and you don't have a guide on how to do this. And it's okay if you're figuring it all out, and it's okay to get things wrong. It's okay to screw things up. It's okay to make people annoyed. It's okay to put the wrong boundary in. It's okay not to do everything perfectly. I know it doesn't feel like it is okay, but it is. And you'll learn from it and you'll grow from it. And there will come a time where you'll be able to look back on it and be grateful that you were gentle with yourself and be grateful that you made it out. You're not broken. You're not failing anybody. You're not failing God. He's not angry at you. Okay? You're safe. And it will be good so soon. I promise. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye.